So, good morning or good day. Welcome. And the Buddha said that, it's a slight paraphrase, that tranquility supports tranquility. And this can be understood that if you let yourself become aware of the tranquility that's here, the tranquility can grow. If you ignore whatever tranquility is here, it doesn't support or the growth of more tranquility. And in this Satipatthana practice, the first exercise with breathing, the tranquility that is focused on is tranquility of the body. And so some translations will say that the last exercise is breathing in. One tranquilizes the bodily formations, tranquilizes the bodily constructs, the tension, the holdings, the way the muscles are engaged very subtly based on how the mind is. Breathing out, one tranquilizes the bodily formations, the bodily activities. And so there is this movement towards tranquility in this practice that begins when we start, just taking the posture and seeing if you can find a posture that supports tranquility. Some modicum, some minimum kind of feeling of being, the body is still, but not just still in a tranquility is a certain stillness that has a wholesome feeling to it. It feels refreshing or feels nice. And the deep tranquility of meditation practice is not a kind of calm that puts us to sleep. It's a kind of clarity, energized clarity that's very peaceful. And as the practice deepens, awareness takes on qualities of tranquility itself. Awareness becomes peaceful. And the analogy I have for it is being in some very beautiful, wonderful, sacred space. It could be some, great cathedral in the natural world of great big redwood trees or great mountains or looking out across the sea. It could be one of the great cathedral where you go in and it has this, maybe the busy, noisy streets are outside and you go inside and there's a quiet and a peace that and a stillness. And in these spaces, awareness is there, present, without having to work for it, without having to search for it or direct it or do anything. It just, somehow the space, the situation, just allows for kind of a spacious, open, wide awareness that somehow is attuned or becomes part of the peacefulness of the place, the quiet of the place. And attention is not directed. It isn't like awareness is being used or it's work. It's simply present. It's there. And there might be other places that in your life where just awareness is just there in a nice way. It could be that something as simple as waking up from a very refreshing nap and you just feel like, you're just aware. You're not really focusing or trying to do anything with it. But you're clearly aware and it's kind of a clarity. Or maybe looking out across a great expanse of natural world, being on a cliff or on a mountainside. And the situation just awakens a kind of tranquil, open awareness that's not searching for something, not trying to focus on something. It's just there. The awareness is present. So in this Satipatthana here in the first exercise, there is a gentle movement that takes time that involves establishing awareness, settling in on the breathing, letting the settling on the breathing settle the mind, settle the body, until it becomes easier just to relax the body more and more, and help the body become tranquil, and appreciating the tranquility of the body. And when that's established, then awareness doesn't have to be directed so much anymore. It doesn't have to be work. It doesn't have to be like making effort to know what's happening or to feel what's happening. And it's not just feeling, it's not just knowing. It's this kind of broader, maybe it's the gestalt or the harmonious working of all our attentional capacities into a state that we might call being aware. And then having this awareness established or present and abiding in it. So this is so I'm describing a process, and I'll say more later. But so for today, let's focus a little bit more on this tranquility, and see if tranquility, awareness can take on some of the qualities of tranquility. So assuming a posture that will allow your body to be tranquil and still. But it should be a posture that also has some degree of alertness to it. A little bit, teeny bit energized. So the energy, the alertness, maybe the uprightness can hold the tranquility. And gently closing the eyes. And then noticing, is there any hints of tranquility for you now in your body, your mind, your heart? Maybe it's even in your little finger, or your big toe or something, but anywhere at all. And then in a manner that has some degree of tranquility or calm in it, calmly take some larger breaths. And then as you exhale, calmly soften the body. Calmly relax your body. And then to let your breathing return to normal. And calmly, taking your time, as you breathe normally, search through your body for places that you can relax, soften. And as you do so, see if that can be a settling into a degree of tranquility or peace. Letting your breathing return to normal. And seeing if there can be a little bit of sense of tranquility or calm in establishing your attention on the experience of the body breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Perhaps if it's present, if some tranquility is present for you, maybe that can be the atmosphere within which you're breathing. An atmosphere that includes awareness, tranquil awareness. If your mind wanders off, relax something. Relax any holding or tension in the thinking, or in the body related to thinking. And see if you can settle back in to a tranquil awareness. It's more like the atmosphere than it is doing, but within which breathing is the center. A tranquility that makes room for the kind of awareness that doesn't require effort. The kind of awareness that just is. Some people might call it just being conscious, tranquil, conscious in a tranquil way. The effortless way of being conscious with breathing. Breathing through that effortless awareness. Noticing whatever tranquility, peacefulness is present for you now. And is that sense of tranquility shared? Is there some way that it's shared by awareness? By being aware, being conscious? And imagine that with whatever calm, tranquility, peacefulness you have, that you're sitting together with someone you trust, someone that it's easy and peaceful to be with. And nothing's required, nothing needs to be said. But see what it's like. What would it be like to sit there, aware of them, present with them, through this tranquility, through this peacefulness? Perhaps appreciating them, perhaps having goodwill, care for them. Nothing's required. The care, the goodwill, nothing needs to be done. Just let it be there in the peacefulness, in the care. And with that kind of goodwill, staying in that place of tranquility, expand your goodwill now out into the world. Tranquilly wishing all beings well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. And may my peacefulness create the conditions that support them in feeling those ways. May all beings be free. So the last step of the refrain for Satipatthana is one abides mindful that there is a body, just to the extent necessary for knowledge and lucid awareness. Being independent of all, dwelling independent, not clinging to anything in the world. So one abides, this is again a very important word, one rests, one just allows. At the abiding, there's not a lot of work. Mindfulness has transitioned from whatever directedness, whatever efforts needed to show up and be present, to allowing ourselves just to be present. It's more almost like more of a being rather than a doing. And one abides in awareness, but the awareness, when abides, and awareness is present to this very simple recognition, there is a body. So it's very simple. It's, just no judgment, no complications, no analysis, that has to be different in any kind of way. It's just a simple recognition, just to the extent necessary. And I love this expression, just to the extent necessary. We're not looking for a super high standard to do the absolutely the best we can, but just to the extent necessary. So awareness is established just to the extent necessary for there to be knowledge, the knowing, a very simple knowing that's not work. It's not like actively knowing, but it's just kind of the knowing, like for example, there is a body. Knowing that we're independent, not dependent on anything. Knowing that we are not clinging to anything. And so to the extent there's knowledge and lucid awareness. And this word lucid awareness is in Pali has the word sati in it. The word is often translated as mindfulness. It has a prefix pati, P-A-T-I. So P-A-T-I-S-A-T-I, pati sati. And it's a reflexive prefix, meaning kind of reflecting back on oneself. And so it's awareness that kind of is aware of itself. So I translate this as a lucid awareness. There's a lucid because we know we're aware in a lucid, clear way. And so the practice leads to this place where there's this very simple abiding in awareness that's lucid and is able to know very simple things, including, and that sets the stage for moving into this freedom of not being dependent on anything in the world, not clinging to anything in the world. And what that means is not necessarily that we don't depend on, on shopkeepers having food so we can live, but rather not the awareness, the mind, the heart is at rest in itself, and the mind and heart don't need anything for resting in a kind of peaceful place. And this last phrase, being independent, not depending on anything, not clinging to anything in the world, is one way of describing nibbana, the full realization of practice. So it's you don't expect to sit down and just do that quickly, but it's something that grows over time. And this idea of this practice growing over time is inherent in this whole way in which Satipatthana is laid out. We're describing a path, a process. And so having a sense that there's a kind of an onward leading movement slowly over time. But it's not an onward leading movement that's linear, that you can expect to just kind of steadily go make progress. It's more like up and down, back and forth, and our lives are so complicated, the states of our mind are so different from different times, but slowly over time, we're kind of moving in one direction, and that direction is towards freedom. So there is this process, there's this path, a journey that unfolds over time. And so we don't get tripped up around that and caught up in striving and comparing ourselves and wanting to be further than we are. One of the principles that I love is the principle that to go from A to B, be fully at A. So for the purposes of mindfulness practice, if you want to go anywhere in your mindfulness practice, don't worry about getting anywhere with the practice. Just focus on being fully present for what is. And that practice of fully present for what is what is onward leading. It'll unfold the way it's supposed to unfold. If our dedication is not making progress, but rather showing up and being fully present here, the progress takes care of itself. So to summarize or to repeat kind of what I've said already, to get a sense of this journey that's described so far, the Buddha talks about there's a path to liberation, a path to nibbana. And what is that? It's observing the body in the body. Ardent, aware, and clearly comprehending, having put aside grief and covetousness for the world. So that's a high standard already, to have put aside covetousness and grief for the world, distress for the world, to be, and so then he wants to say, well, how do you do that? How do you practice this, practicing observing the body in terms of the body? Well, you sit down to meditate, sit upright, and you establish awareness. And with awareness established, you use that first to become aware of your breathing. And because the mind so easily wanders off, the tether to the present moment is knowing the breath. And if some people will use the knowing, or practice the knowing with a mental noting. So as they feel the breathing, they say in, out, or rising of the belly, falling of the belly, or the chest. And that mental note is a little bit way of being emphatic, slightly emphatic, with the knowing of the breathing as you know it. And kind of as a tether to the present moment. As that practice deepens, then we can become aware of our body, and we just become aware of the whole body at some point. And then the onward leading movement goes towards relaxing the body. And this part of the process can be repeated over and over again, for a long time, just getting used to it and knowing and feeling and relaxing. And some days one is emphasized more than the other. Sometimes we just stay at step one, barely stay there because the mind is so busy. So whatever you are, just be fully at A. Practice with what you have. That's what onward leading. Practice where you are, not where you think you should be. But then as we settle in and there's more and more tranquility, and we settle into that tranquility, then the awareness, we observe, we enter this phase of practice where there's observation, watching, just this non-reactive, non-interfering perceiving of experience. And we experience it internally and externally. And one way of understanding that is that it's just open. Awareness is now open 360 degrees. And we're aware of the body, the full body, in a simple, relaxed way. And as we settle into that further, then we abide in a situation where, a time when awareness begins tuning in to the changing nature, the flow of change, the inconstancy of experience. And the inconstancy of change, things coming and going, it becomes clear after a while that it doesn't make any sense to cling to anything, hold on to anything, resist anything, because everything is flowing. And if anything, it's like we surrender to that sense of flow in the body that exists, of everything arising and passing, everything moving. And we see so clearly that when we get involved in thoughts and concepts, that we kind of start solidifying our experience again. And so then we dip back down into the flow of the river of life that flows through us with all experience. And because we're not clinging at some point, then what happens next is that we're just there, present in the simplest possible way with a lucid awareness. Awareness becomes freed from how it gets agitated or contracted or cloudy with concepts, clinging, wanting, not wanting. It's just this lucid awareness, lucid consciousness that is not working to be mindful, not working to do anything. It's more like something we abide in, we rest in, we allow. And that very still, quiet mind, where we just allow things to be, where we're not for or against anything, is very equanimous. And that allows for even a deeper letting go, where in that state, it's clear that our hearts, our minds, is no longer depends on its well-being, on anything at all. There's it's kind of self-contained or self-existing, our sense of well-being and freedom. So it doesn't depend on anything at all. And then, and not clinging to anything in the world. And to have that experience and have that as a reference point for what's possible brings a lot of wisdom, a lot of inspiration. Probably you'll cling again. Probably you'll have a sense of depending on things again. But you'll understand that there's a different perspective now, a different way of being, and you'll hopefully hold your clinging, hold your feeling of dependence much more lightly, and you have a sense the practice is moving beyond it to be free of all that. So this is a journey. And so now we've done the first exercise of the Satipatthana, gone through with the breathing into the refrain. And now there's 12 more exercises, each with the same refrain that we just went through. And so on Monday I'll start with the second exercise, contextualizing it a little bit, but we'll never lose track of the breathing. I mean, the guided meditations will often come back to the breathing. It's like the anchor or the foundation that supports this, I hope. But the other practices are also relevant. And so if some of you don't care for the breathing, at some point these others might be more meaningful for you. So thank you. And when we continue on Monday, I'll be back at IRC, the Insight Retreat Center. I'm teaching a retreat next week, so I'll be broadcasting from the meditation hall there, and so you'll see, that I'm in a different location. So, thank you all.